so excited to welcome our guest today, Rebecca Bultsma. She is out of Alberta, Canada, and she is doing some fabulous work with AI. So, we are really going to talk about how to use AI in your role as a school communicator. Rebecca is going to break down how to get started. It can be really overwhelming, and she's giving us a lot of tools. Okay. She's also going to break down some of the newest tools that are out there, and one is called Grok. It's actually embedded right into X or Twitter. There's a lot of different ways you can use that. And then she really talks about not using AI so much as a writing tool, but more as a strategy partner and a thought partner. And so I think you're going to get a lot of ways to utilize this to make you better, faster, more efficient, be able to help your school in new and big ways. We also are going to dive into the ethics behind it. And she has been in this world for over a year. And so she's going to be able to share some things that you need to make sure to think about. I am so glad that you're here. And I know we're upon a little break from school. And I just want to put out as we close out the year 2023. Have you listened to all of our podcast episodes? This is like, what episode is this? I'm trying to look real quick on my computer here. This is already episode 194. Since I started this podcast back in 2000, just want to let you know that the top three, this one probably is going to be one of the top three podcasts of the year. But if you want to go back to episode 144, that was on social media strategy and avoiding burnout in school PR with Christy McGee. That was one of our top podcasts. Episode 146, social media at small private schools, leading the fan club with Stephanie Jakoblich. And then episode 148, actually, up until right now, is our highest. And that's with my friend Megan Anthony, creating campaigns for beginners. I love that episode. I love all three of those episodes. You guys, there's a lot to listen to. Get some inspiration as you lean into 2024. But now let's get into a real quick K-12 PR tip. Hey there, today's K-12 PR tip is on Instagram, specifically Instagram Reels, sharing to Facebook Reels. And I want to make sure that you have this turned on because I didn't for my school. And that's why it wasn't allowing me to automatically share a reel that I created on Instagram to automatically post to Facebook. So when you are on your Instagram page, you are going to go up into the hamburger menu up in the upper right-hand corner and go into settings and privacy. And then you're going to walk into your account center. Okay. Your account center is where you can connect experiences. And if you have your Instagram and Facebook page connected, you are going to see something that says connected experiences. And I've got one that says sharing across profiles. When I click on that and then click on the Instagram page for my school, I have the ability to turn on automatically sharing for story, posts, reels. I personally have it turned on for story and reels and not posts, simply because I schedule a lot of things where I'm actually posting to Facebook and Instagram for posts at the same time. And I don't want to end up posting something on Instagram that potentially already posted on Facebook to post again. So I don't enable that, but you certainly can if you want. You just have to be aware of that. But you definitely, if you want Instagram Reels for the possibility to share onto your Facebook page, you have to have that toggle switch to on. Okay. And then when you go to create your reel, you are going to have that choice. Hope this tip helps. If you've got more questions, I'm at Andrea Gribble over there on X or Twitter. Also, you can always reach out to me at andrea@socialschoolforedu.com. Man, we got a lot to dig into. So let's get started and I'll introduce you to Rebecca. I am so excited to welcome to the show today, Rebecca Bultsma. Hello.
Hello, I'm excited to be here.
Now, some of my listeners may have been lucky enough to see you in person or maybe over a webinar recently. You have really been making the rounds, really talking a lot about generative AI. But why don't you share your background and your role there as Director of Communications at Westwind School Division in Alberta.
Sure. So, my background is in school PR here in Canada. I am the Director of Communications for Westwind School Division. So, my role is the same as probably most of your listeners. The only thing that might be a little different is about a year ago, right around this time actually, at Christmas, I was scrolling TikTok with my kids and came across a video where someone was having AI just write an essay for them in seconds. And I was immediately obsessed. And I have been obsessed ever since. I have read everything I can get my hands on. I've played with it every day since that moment. And that whole idea of language and words and productivity and efficiency and technology just ended up to be the perfect blend for my palette in school PR and background in communications. So that's a little bit about me and how I ended up here.
Yeah. So how big is your school district or your school division there in Alberta?
It's not very big. We're made up of lots of small rural community schools. So we have about 4,500 students.
Oh, okay. And then you're a solo shop, I'm sure.
I am one man shop, probably like a lot of my other school PR friends out there. It's a smorgasbord of lots of different hats.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that that really comes in handy when you talk about the productivity and efficiency because we're all trying to get more done in less time. And it's challenging. And I think AI can definitely be a tool that helps us. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about your journey. Like you shared kind of the short version, but you started out a year ago just scrolling through some stuff on TikTok. How have you kind of taught yourself the latest tricks of the trade, which by the way change every day. So tell
Every
me a little
day.
bit about the journey.
Well, it kind of started out just by me saying, "Oh, this looks really cool. I want to see who else is doing this in school PR so that I can figure out how they're doing it so that I can learn how to do it." And so I looked on Twitter, I looked on Instagram, I looked on TikTok, and I couldn't find anybody else who was doing it. So I thought, well, someone's got to figure it out and someone's got to be the one to show other school PR people specifically how to do it. So maybe as my 90s heart saying it's going to be me by NSYNC, I thought maybe it'll be me. So I just started playing with it, and every day I would try something and then I would post about it and I would talk about it and I would say, hey, today I tried doing this on AI and it didn't really work, but I tried it in this way and then it worked. Or today I realized that I could use Chat GPT to brainstorm. And so I found some people to follow who their kind of vision of how they wanted to use it aligned with mine. And I started following them. And when they posted things they were trying, I would try it. And then I would try something and post about it. I would started listening to all the podcasts I could find. I started subscribing to daily newsletters just so I could have that touch point every day. And then when somebody would post about a study or an experiment, I would go and read it so I could understand it better. And then on like a Hail Mary, totally out of my comfort zone, we had like a little regional PD happening here in Alberta. Alberta's a province, kind of like your states. And I decided to just throw my name in and say, hey, I think I'll talk about AI. And I had major imposter syndrome because I didn't even know that I really knew what I was talking about, but I knew I liked it. I figured out some cool ways to use it. And it was so well received that I thought, you know what, maybe my friends at NSPRA, would be interested in this and some other school PR people. And the deadline had passed, but I reached out and said, hey, I know there's a deadline, but this is something I really think can help us as school communicators. If you don't have a session on it, or I know people's flights get delayed all the time, I just gave a presentation. I'm ready to go. Put me in, coach, and I'm happy to talk about it. And that's what ended up happening. And so it's been kind of a fun journey because it's changing every day. I ended up having to adapt my entire life. I never was a super morning person, but I was like, okay, well, to make this work in the context of my family and my full-time job, to invest this time, I'm going to have to start getting up at 5 a.m. And so from 5 to 8 every day, I sit and I learn and I experiment and I play. And it's been like a really, really cool year to learn something new.
Yeah. You had a packed house at NSPRA this summer, and it was so helpful. I know you have done some special training with my group. You were just on a national with NSPRA and Final Site, talking about AI to NSPRA members across the country. And I know that we could talk all day about, the ways that you're using it. But how, if I was a school communicator, and I mean, I think all school communicators know and have heard about AI, maybe not everybody's using it on a daily basis, but how can school communicators get started using AI to help them in their role?
It can be really overwhelming. And especially now, back when I started, there was like one, it was like Chat GPT, right? And now all you hear about are your existing products that are integrating AI and things you're already using, and tons of new products, and all of these different large language models and new versions of them. So I totally get it. It's super overwhelming. I think there's a couple of things that I'd recommend. There is a course, a free course called AI for Everyone, and it's by Deep Learning AI, and it is actually really, really good. It's free. There's a bunch of free courses out there. There's one called Generative AI for Beginners by Microsoft. So that deep learning AI course, I tried and I really, really liked it. It was really good. If you have some time over Christmas to dedicate, it'll probably take you maybe 3 hours, but you can start and stop it. Just gives you a good overview. There's an ebook by a guy named Christopher Penn, and it's a free ebook, and it's called The Woefully Incomplete Book of Generative AI. And I think he updates it all the time, but it's free. And I highly recommend that, just to kind of look through and say, what does that mean? What does that mean? He gives it in really, really simple terms.
I mean, just being able to carve out a little bit of time, knowing that what you learn is going to save you time in the long run. I think it's so, so critical. So I love those resources. We'll get those linked.
Something else I'd recommend, if you only have a little bit of time a day, is there's a couple actually really good podcasts that I just listen to every morning as I'm doing my makeup and getting ready for work. One is called the AI Breakdown, and he explains things really, really simply, and just kind of daily news in AI with a little bit of context. The other one is one called the Marketing AI Podcast, and it's actually really, really good as well. I'm actually planning on starting something that's going to be just explaining AI very, very basically for beginners and everything that's happening, but just distilling it down in a really simple way. So I'll keep you posted on that, because I think this is something that's lacking. People who are just like, hey, how do I start? What's the best way to get going here? And what's the best thing to do? So I can start that over if you want, because of the
No,
ding.
no,
I don't, I, like I said, new computer. I'm just going to
oh, I didn't even hear it.
put it on. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Now I'm making more work for you to edit. I'm putting on
No,
do not disturb. Sorry about that.
that's
Okay.
okay.
All right. So
Do you want
uh,
to just start at there's a couple podcasts, and then you could talk about
yes,
the
yeah.
podcast you plan to listen or to plan to start?
I don't even bring that up, because
I do,
otherwise
I
I'll get
do, because I'm going to say,
going,
I'm going to
but
make sure to reference that.
okay.
I'm going to
Okay.
uphold you accountable,
Okay.
Rebecca, because I want the
All
podcast.
right, let's do it. I already have the podcast art and the account started. So,
Yes.
okay,
So
so I'll start from there.
yes.
So there's actually a couple of podcasts that I really recommend too. I try and listen to a podcast every day while I'm getting ready. And a really great one is the AI Breakdown. It's one I listen to every day. It's 5 to 10 minutes long. It's fantastic. And it gives you kind of a sense of what's happening in the world of AI. Another one is the Marketing AI podcast. Same kind of thing, but more in depth if you do anything related to marketing, which most of us do. And then I'm planning on, in the next few weeks here, launching my own, which will be explaining AI. And it's going to help break down all of that jargon and all of the news and things you hear in a really, really simple way, so that you can kind of jump in whenever and know kind of how things work and what's happening. So podcasts, depending on your lifestyle, if you're a reader, if you're into podcasts, I will give you one more great resource, because it just came out this week. OpenAI, the company behind Chat GPT, just launched a prompting guide, or best practices for prompt engineering. And it is really, really good. It has some really good suggestions in it, the same things that I've talked about for a long time. I do have an AI for School PR website that just kind of gives you some basics and some basic prompts to get started. But lots of resources are better than no resources. So there's kind of a smorgasbord. I'll make sure you get them all so that you can link them into
Yes.
your
So
show
we'll
notes.
We'll have all those in the show notes. And I'm so excited that you're starting a podcast. That is going to be incredible. It's nice to be able to just talk through using these things. And so thanks for leaning into that. And prompting guides, I will link to that. And as always, I'm sure things will constantly be changing. Um, but as far as just some of the simple things, you gave a ton of resources. But if I want to start using AI, for example, this is the Mastering Social Media for Schools podcast. So using it in my writing for social media or some of those things, what would be some examples besides write me a Facebook post with emojis about, and I would put in a short description. What are
Mm,
some other ways that I could use AI for social media?
great question. There's a ton of ways. One of the ways that I've been using it lately, there's a new version of AI out. It's called Grok. It is on the X, formerly Twitter platform.
Okay.
But one way I've used it that's really interesting is I will go into Grok and say, I want you to analyze my Twitter account and give me analysis of what posts perform the best, what type of content is the most popular, and based on my entire history, when should I be posting to maximize my personal exposure? So doing something like that with your school accounts or downloading your analytics from a social media account and uploading them to something like Chat GPT-4 and asking it to analyze the content that does best and what time specific to your platform is best. I know that the platforms itself give you suggestions, but sometimes it's nice to be able to see and know and compare that to another analysis. So that's a way that I've used it for social media. Sometimes I will craft a post and then I will give it to an AI platform and say, I want you to analyze this as if you were a parent at this school. Does this give you all the information you need? Or what questions might you have about this post? Just so I can make sure I'm looking at it clearly and I'm not leaving anything out that maybe should be included. So kind of that opposite set of eyes to help me improve something that I've already put together.
So it sounds like a collaboration tool almost where it's helping you make sure you haven't missed anything. That can be really powerful. I want to show you or share just a really super basic way that I used it because I've got some questions about analyzing some of your social media content. But one thing I did was before the holidays, we had an ornament contest and we had our followers help vote A, B, C, D, E, or F. They had six choices. And then they responded in the comments. And I just pasted all 133 comments with the names, with the reply or like button on all of that. I put it into, I have the version 4 of Chat GPT, and I said, hey, summarize the votes for A, B, C, D, and E and F. And it did it for me. It was able to figure
Amazing.
out, all of the names and all of that. It took those out, but then just took those letters. So that was pretty easy, but I wasn't exactly sure if it would work. You know what I mean?
And that's all we're all doing. We're just saying, I wonder if this would work. And then we try it and then it does. And then we realize, oh, that just saved me an hour. So now what can I do with that time to magnify my role or to do something new or something I love to make this even cooler?
Yeah. So if I would say to analyze my Twitter account to determine what content does best and what times I should be posting, are you just pasting in like the account and then it looks at it, or are you having to copy a bunch of content? How does that work?
Well, in this specific example, Grok is actually an AI that is built right into Twitter. Elon
Okay.
Musk just released it in the last week. And
Okay.
so, because it's built into Twitter, what makes it really cool is it can quickly analyze real time Twitter data, what's happening on Twitter. So, you can say, what 3 things are trending in school PR right now? And it will look at every single post quickly in school PR and give you the top 3 trends. Or tell me 3 things that happened cool in school PR this last week. It will give you that information in real time, which nothing else can do yet. That's what makes it kind of neat. But in that case, because it's built into Twitter, I had it analyze my Twitter account. Something people are doing that's kind of fun is saying, hey, roast me based on my Twitter account. And so it will analyze and give you a roast. So for Twitter, that Grok is a really cool tool. For other platforms, you have to manually export some of your data, like Chat GPT-4, and then you could upload it to Chat GPT-4 and tell it to act like a master social media analytics uh, expert, and
Mhm.
to analyze your content from the last month and make suggestions for where you should focus your content efforts for the upcoming month based on the data.
Okay. Now, one thing that I have tried now that I've got the version 4 is they do have the ability to generate images. And
Mm-hmm.
so I tried last Monday, Rebecca, I was trying to create a quote like graphic using a quote. And ChatGPT did a really crappy job on
Oh, yeah.
taking the exact quote that I wanted. It was misspelling who quoted it, and then I like quickly glanced at it and I'm like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." And then it was like that it made up words. So
Mm-hmm.
tell me, I mean, I know that we obviously use AI as a tool and it's never the final draft, but there are
Mm-hmm.
some things that it does really well, and there's some things that it doesn't do well. So tell me a little bit about that.
You bring up a great point, and that's a really core part of this whole understanding how to use AI is figuring out what it can do well and the things it can't do well. So what you've mentioned, it's a brand new thing. It used to be, and Midjourney still makes way better images than
Okay.
Dolly within ChatGPT. But the idea of merging image generation with large language models, it's never been done before. And so ChatGPT is the first AI model that is multimodal, which means it can do both of those things at the same time, but it's terrible at it. In Midjourney, they can't even construct letters and pictures into the same package at all. So they've just started doing that with ChatGPT, but it is very rare that you will get things spelled properly. It's a work in progress. It will get better, but I'd say maybe one time out of 10, it gets things right. And even things as simple as uh, do an image with a dog depicting every day of the week. It'll come up with like 12 days, and 3 of them will all kind of look like Monday. So, in terms of what it's not great at, what it's not great at right now is doing pictures and images together.
Okay.
So we may still be focusing on just the image, or do an image of somebody holding a large white canvas, pop that into Canva and put your text on manually for now. I think it'll be way better even in the next 3 months. It'll probably be mind blowing. But yeah, that's something it's not great at yet.
Okay. Yeah. It's just interesting to because you something I would think would be easy isn't
Right?
that easy.
Yeah.
That's my simple mind, I guess. So there's a lot of versions out there, and a lot of platforms are developing their own version of AI right within their tool, like the one you just mentioned with Twitter. But as far as like kind of what a lot of people think of as Chat GPT, should we invest in the paid version?
1000% yes. No question. Like,
Okay.
no hesitation. Find $20, sell something on Facebook Marketplace, do something. Again, it depends on your needs, but in every conceivable way, ChatGPT 4 is, I always say, like getting to ride in a private jet for the price of a bicycle. The things that it can do blow my mind every day. And there'll be times, even today, I was trying to get a transcribed interview I'd done with somebody and get it to transcribe in ChatGPT into just straight text. So then I could get it to summarize that text so I could outline an article. And it was awful. And I was like, what is going on? Oh, I was in the free version. And as soon as I switched over to the paid version, it worked like a charm. So it'd be the difference for me, like having like a ninth grade work experience student versus like a PhD work experience student helping you with your work. So
Okay.
yeah, grade 9 students helpful for some things, the very most basic things. But if you want anything beyond organize this or write something very, very basic for me, it's 100% worth the upgrade.
Okay. Yeah. And right now, as we're recording this, just at the end of 2023, it's $20 a month. And I did make the investment. And I will do that sometimes too, Rebecca, where I'm just like, oh, sometimes like this morning again, it defaulted back to
Yeah.
the free version. I don't know if that's, because it's got so much activity maybe on the 4 version, sometimes it's trying to encourage you to use the free one, but just make sure that that part is toggled on.
100%. And my favorite features within AI that I use every single day are only available on the paid version. And I can't imagine my life without it. I've been telling people for a while to make sure they get it, and ChatGPT actually turned off subscriptions to ChatGPT 4 for about a month, but they just a couple of days ago reopened it back up. And so now they're available to everyone. So grab them while you can.
Okay. Now, what are some of those tools within 4 right now? Maybe, I mean, you can say the tool name, but just describing like some of what it helps you do. Because I'd be interested. I was trying to figure out how to do a upload of a transcript, like an audio file, and have it
Yeah.
do a transcription for me, and I couldn't really figure out how. So, is that a add-on? Like you need to do a plugin or?
No, not necessarily. And again, I'd never done it before either. So this morning I was like, I wonder if AI can do this. That's a question I ask myself every day with every task. I wonder if AI can do this. So what I ended up doing is I had the recording on my phone and my voice memos, and I just turned on my Chat GPT. There's whisper technology in it, which when you look on your phone in the Chat GPT app, there's like a little, it almost looks like sound lines right on the toolbar where you type. So what I did is I uploaded the audio onto my computer, and then I took my phone, I turned on that whisper technology, and I played it and said, I want you to transcribe this. I set my phone beside the computer. And as it was playing off of my computer, it transcribed it all automatically onto my phone. And from there, it was showing up back in the same window. I went back to my desktop and said, now summarize this into 10 key points and pull out 15 really good quotes that I might be able to use for this as well. And something interesting is it was able to tell between the different voices, speaker one, speaker two, which was really, really helpful on those quotes as well. So there might be an easier way to do it. That's my first try at it. There might be a way to do it natively, but for right now, that whisper technology, I could only find it really in the phone.
The phone. Okay. That's really interesting. And I love it. Rebecca, this makes me so happy because sometimes I feel like I'm not very techy. And then you're like, there's got to be an easier way to do this, but this is the
Yeah.
only way I can figure
Yeah.
out how to do it. And to hear you say that that's what you do
Oh,
too.
100%. I think that everyone who's using AI, that's all we're doing. We're being like, oh, well, I could try it like this, or I could do it like this. And as soon as I find out there's a better way, I'll try that way. But anything's faster than me having to manually type it out, that transcription, or spend an hour Googling some sort of free site that can do it that I have to sign up for, and all of these things. So it actually worked great. That voice feature is probably my favorite feature on ChatGPT, like going for a walk. And my favorite thing to do actually is there's a lot of things I want to read. I don't have time to read necessarily. So I'll upload it to
Yeah.
ChatGPT on my desktop. Then I'll go for a walk and tell my app, ChatGPT app, I'll go into that same conversation and say, I want you to read this to me paragraph by paragraph. And after every paragraph, I want you to stop and ask me 3 questions about it. And so we have a voice conversation, and it reads to me an academic journal or something published that I wanted to read about ethics and PR. And it was great for helping me study for my APR because I wasn't in front of a screen all the time. I could get through that content and have a critical thought partner just by using AI. And to me, I would have paid a lot more than $20 a month for that.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So, just, I mean, I know we've already talked about some of those specific ways. We just had a little discussion last week within our group of talking of what we were using Chat GPT for or things, and just active voice was one of them. Like write this in active voice, make it shorter. Even, and I don't love the terminology, but sometimes like just dumb it down, like
Yeah,
make it a 3rd grade reading level, because sometimes we write in such complicated ways.
100%.
And one of the big things that I think, Rebecca, is like, for me, because it's being used, quite a bit now, it's like if I can tell that Chat GPT wrote something, I don't love that, right? If it's coming from our school. So making sure that again, you use it as that first draft, but sometimes it'll take 1 sentence and it'll like expand that into like 7 sentences. And I'm like, okay, I don't need
Yeah,
that much description. I don't need that much, so really trying to make sure that you fit with your brand voice, your right? I mean, I think that's something
100%.
we need
That's
to think about.
actually my biggest piece of advice for anyone in school PR. Something that's kind of changed for me over the course of this past year and how I use AI is I actually don't use it to write things anymore. Like maybe once a month. But my
Okay.
best tip is to use it as a strategy partner, as a thought partner, use it for brainstorming, use it to check your work against, but use it to generate ideas and get you tips and to look at things that you've done, but use your own voice, keep that brand voice. It's harder than I thought originally to replicate, and the more I do this, the more I can tell,
Mhm.
and the more I personally miss seeing actual human writing and voice. Like I get excited sometimes when I see a typo because I know for sure somebody wrote it,
Yeah.
but I love that idea of like knowing that it's a human writing it. That human might have said, hey, make sure that this is at a grade 9 reading level for our audience, or give me 5 suggestions to improve this writing, and then take those and manually write them. I'm finding that is becoming more meaningful to me. And the whole idea of how Chat GPT, AI, name that LLM, any of them are going to change the way we communicate. I think we have to be really careful not to lose that human touch. And for me, I've just taken suggestions and brainstorming ideas, and I've gone back to making sure everything I write, I am writing so that I'm keeping that element. But I use it for literally everything else. And I use it for brainstorming and to run the ideas through and to get me started and to outline things. But the actual writing, I've gone back to just doing that.
Yeah. That's really good advice. And okay, I just was thinking of an example for me. I just did a huge Q&A session. I had like 34, 35 different questions from across the country, and I went through and I made sure to answer all of those, but I'm thinking about now about, okay, what were the top themes? Or,
Mhm.
if I was to suggest blog articles, what would we have?
Mhm.
And I could plug that into AI. So I'm thinking about our listeners, if they have, for example, have a survey that they did,
100%.
they
Yep.
could they could put the survey data into Chat GPT and help develop, hey, what are the things that most people misunderstand, or that we could
Yep.
really, I don't know. Does that is that right?
I do that all the time. I do that
Okay.
all the time. That was actually one of the very first ways that I realized it could be used as a tool outside of writing. I'm always really careful to strip out any identifiable information out of my data, but
Yes.
you can either copy and paste it, or you can upload a CSV file and say, well, you can say, summarize, pull out just the answers from fourth grade parents and summarize them for me, or make me a chart based on this, or give me recommendations from what we should do next with this data. Give me 5 recommendations on how I could improve these survey questions for next time. Write this summary into a report for our board of trustees focusing on this. Or you can ask questions of the data. Is there anything in this data that would indicate that we need to improve safety measures in our schools? And it will go through and answer questions specifically based on your data set or your survey set. So all of those ways to use it as like a partner and a thought partner are amazing. So what are the based on this survey, and these were the goals, what are the 5 key takeaways based on this data? And have it act as a superintendent, a school safety expert, a cyber threat team, whatever. But just ask questions of the data, or have it summarize or pull out key information from your data sets. That is an excellent way to use this, because I remember back at the beginning of my career having to manually go through and do sentiment analysis on surveys, like doing stickers and green and red highlighters, and huge time savers. Now I can spend more time critically analyzing how I'm asking questions, what I'm doing to close that feedback loop, and all of these different things.
Okay. Well, you brought up one thing in mentioning that, where you were stripping out any identifiable information. So I just want to
Mhm.
talk briefly about ethics. I recently heard someone who was actually fired from her role within her school because she had used AI in developing a first draft for her
Mm.
school. So, what should school communicators do to, make sure they're covering themselves and how they're using it in their role? What advice could you have with that?
And that's tricky. Like I've heard that story, but I wasn't able to find anything, online about it or any more details. But it's tragically heartbreaking to me because I think there's a lot of people, a lot of school leaders out there that don't really understand AI and how it works and how helpful it can be, especially in our role as school communicators, and not in a way that it's doing our jobs for us, in ways that it's making us better at our jobs. But I think sort of those underlying ethical core principles that you adhere to, whether you're a member of NSPRA or the Public Relations Society of America, or all these different organizations, we have these foundational ethical pillars. And I've kind of developed a set of my own to govern my use of AI, but I think really just analyzing your use and making sure what you're doing is transparent, keeping open dialogue, which is tricky, especially if you're in an organization that doesn't really understand how it's being used. But maybe just saying, I'm using it to brainstorm ideas. I'm using it for this. I'm using it for this. When I'm writing something, note that that is me writing it. If not, I'll tell you. But just having that transparency and honesty surrounding using it. There was a survey that just came out last month that said 68% of people are using AI at work and not telling their bosses about it. So if I was a boss, that would kind of make me a little bit skeptical and wary as well. So I think just having those conversations where you can and showing how you're using it, that it's benefiting your job in terms of, look how quickly I was able to analyze this data. Look at this particular way that we were able to organize this. Look at, these were my questions before I asked these 5 questions of my AI model, and look how much better they are now. And so trying to help educate people as to how they're helpful, but then just always making sure that everything that we're using AI with and our end products are always fact checked and accurate, because you will get into trouble from your school community or your boss if the AI hallucinates or makes something up or does something wrong. It's on you. So you need to use it as a tool. It would be the same as if I used Grammarly and it gave me wrong grammar suggestions. It would be on me. So making sure that you're checking everything for accuracy, fact checking it, really being aware of privacy and confidentiality, not giving it any personal private data, and making that a priority because that's something people are really worried about. Making sure that your use of the AI isn't in a way that is perpetuating some of those biases and stereotypes that are kind of inherent in a lot of these models. Making sure you're having full human oversight over it. Everything has that human in the loop mentality, the human oversight. You're not just copying and pasting something directly from Chat GPT and sending it out to school parents, especially in a crisis. There was an organization who, during a crisis, sent out an AI generated message, and it had no empathy, and they could tell it was AI generated, and they wanted that human element. People want it, and they want it more now than ever, because now they don't know whether they're getting it or not. So if you are very human whenever you can be, I think that is a key thing, because I think this is going to transform communication forever, and the human element is going to be a very valuable currency. And then I think just committing to ongoing growth and learning about AI models as part of our ethical commitment, and so that we're using them in the best possible way, we're using them ethically, and we understand how they work, what they're bad at, and then we can help kind of educate those around us who might not fully understand all of it.
Yeah, because I have adapted the mindset that, AI is not necessarily going to take my job, but somebody who knows how to use AI might. And so, being able to arm yourself and you doing it in really becoming an expert in this, devoting a couple hours a day really to diving into it. You've given us some great resources. You don't have to spend as much time as Rebecca, but, I would say at a minimum, an hour a week, you should
Yeah,
be playing around with it and seeing what it can do, because it is really amazing how much time it can save for you to be able to handle things that can't be aided by AI, for instance, consoling those kids that are dealing with some kind of tragedy in the school district, or, something like that, right?
exactly. And
Yeah.
I think really at the end of the day, using AI as a tool and understanding how to use it in a way that works best for you, the way it works best for you, Andrea, will be totally different than the way it works best for me. But it really will make us love our jobs more. I think most of us are so busy and run ragged from all of the different hats we wear. And if there's a way to streamline some of that more busy work or that tedious work and free us up for the elements of school PR that bring us joy, whether that's being in school and that human element and showcasing great things happening and seeing them firsthand. And if this tool gives us that opportunity, then I think that is immensely valuable for anybody.
Yeah, I agree. Now, Rebecca, as we wrap up, we talked a little bit about social media. Do you have any like your favorite AI tip when it comes to social media? Or maybe it's just in general a social media tip?
I really like being able to analyze data and make data informed decisions. So in that way, I like AI just so I can say, like on Grok right now, it's novelty for me, but I had it go on and look across every school district in Alberta that had a Twitter account and tell me what the top performing posts were that people were engaging with and liking, and then give me 5 suggestions for my content. And so in that way, it brainstorms, but in very platform specific way. I
Okay.
think I really like to use it to analyze the readability of my posts.
Yep.
It's great even if you're having a special event and I don't have to sit and use brain power to come up with a great hashtag idea. So in that way, I really like to use it to come up with great hashtag or creative ideas, or hey, I'm doing this campaign, what would be some great images to go along with this campaign? And it will describe some for me, and then I can go out and find those or take those. So ideas of pictures, or I can generate them. But one other way that I used it recently is we're doing a campaign to help educate parents about social media platforms so that they can, I think a lot of parents don't necessarily understand social media and so don't know how to protect their kids from some of the harms. So we're running a campaign on that. And so I wanted to find a few additional resources to include in some of our communications. Hey, if you want to learn more deep dive on this, here's some great things. So I asked Chat GPT 4, which is connected to the internet, to say, hey, find me something specific. Here's the 10 topics we're covering. Find me specific resources for parents to learn more about social media on each of these topics. And it returned a whole list, and some of them were great, and some of the links were completely made up. So if I would have taken and copied and pasted those over exactly, it would have not worked out well. But I went on, manually checked them all. Some of them didn't exist. Some of them were broken links. And so it gave me the opportunity to then find some sites. So some of them were pages within a site that I'd never heard of, a great parent resource site. And it gave me access to better resources to go through, and then I could find something in there that would work. But it really simplified that process for me, finding links, finding information. I was still in the loop and making sure they were current, but getting some of that supporting background info. One other way that I've used it is if we're in the process of developing a policy or procedure, we want to know what other school divisions are doing. I used to have to go manually to other school divisions and look and see what their policies were. And now I can say, look in this area, see if any school divisions, we call them divisions in Alberta, you call them districts, have policies or procedures surrounding this, and it would immediately return me a list. So it's
Okay.
like Google, only better, because you don't have to hunt through it. We'll return them all and give you a summary and a citation all in one place. So in terms of like content to share, building your content, that is really, really helpful.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, you referenced your website, and then if you want to share what that is, and let's tell our listeners, we'll make sure to link to it. And then any other instructions on like how to stay connected with you. There might be some organizations out there that would just like to contact you. I know you can't do all the presentations you get requested for, but let our listeners know how to stay connected.
Sure. Well, I post on my X, my Twitter, every single day about things I'm learning about AI or image prompts. And so it's just my name, Rebecca Bultsma. Same with LinkedIn. I post on there all the time. I do have a RebeccaBultsma.com website that links over to an AI and school PR website, which I do my best to keep updated, but it kind of covers links to, OpenAI's prompting manual. It gives you 1,000 prompts you might want to try to get good outputs for school PR specifically. It'll tell you how to get started on Midjourney and generating images. I'm sure you can find that lots of different places, but I have tried to put some stuff together there for you. The disclaimer is I am not a website expert, not even close. So you get what you get in
Yes.
terms of that.
Get what you get and you don't throw a fit. I use that a lot with my kids. What I love, Rebecca, is I can speak from firsthand experience within like the training that you did in my group. I was so proud because there have been some beautiful creations with Midjourney, and I have not really jumped into that yet, but knowing that, the instructions you gave, like, people were successful, and that's awesome. So I just really want to thank you for leaning into this and kind of boldly and very in a vulnerable way as well, because it's just like, hey, I went to look for
Yeah.
information, I couldn't really find it, so I'm like, hey, maybe I can
Making
help
it up as
people.
we go. Yeah. And
Yeah.
we all are. And the more of us that start diving in and figuring it out and finding cool ways to use it, we all benefit because we all have the opportunity to learn new things from each
Yes,
other.
and I bet you're gonna meet hopefully through this maybe some other AI people that are really focused on this, and you can connect with Rebecca. We'll make sure to link the Twitter, LinkedIn, and her website. And then, like I said, we'll also have some of those tools that she gave us in regards to courses and podcasts and ebooks. We'll have that all waiting for you in the show notes. Rebecca, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I've got my to-do list for this afternoon, and AI can help me out with it. And so that's really helpful.
Absolutely.
Thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
Thank you, Andrea.
Yeah. All right, everybody. We will see you back here, same time, same place, or whenever you want to listen to this, because it's obviously available. But we'll be back with another great guest next week. We'll see you next time.